Hello, very quickly, let's see the ninth cause which led to the spread of industrial revolution. It is colonialism and imperialism. Okay, so what happened over here that the colonies over here became the centers of raw material. For example, if we see in India, from India, the raw material was supplied to Britain. Okay, so the colonies, they were a steady source of cheap raw materials. Cotton was taken from India and Egypt. Sugar and tobacco was taken from Caribbean. Minerals and metals were taken from Africa. Okay. Now, markets for the goods. These colonies, they served as the captive markets. When the raw material was taken, I have already discussed what was happening, that this raw material, when it was created as the finished good, this finished good was again sold back in the colonies. Okay, it ensured that the demand for the industrial output is maintained. Apart from this, Indian handloom industry also declined. UPSC has asked this question uh, regarding the disruption of the handicrafts. In I think 2024, we'll be seeing the past year question, as the British textile, they flooded the Indian market. And what have we seen? That these textiles, they were made out of Jenny machines, right? And power loom sector was there. So the productivity in lesser number of time, huge mass production was possible, whereas in India they were making it from the artisans were making it from the hand, right? So they could not, definitely they cannot compete with these people. Strong imperial infrastructure. Over here we see that the Royal Navy, okay, and the British merchant fleets, they were fueled by colonist expansion, right? And it ensured that they have a global dominance of British industrial products. Mercantilist class, second is colonist class, third is imperialist, right? Wealth from the colonies. Now, whatever wealth, drain of wealth we discuss in India, right? So, whatever wealth, this colonial exploitation, it generated huge surplus of the capital. British merchants and the East Indian Company again reinvested in the profits in industries and the infrastructure. You see here, Bengal over here, it became Britain's colonial workshop, right? Specifically after the Battle of Plassey 1757, because a lots of major trading rights were achieved by them, supplying the raw material while importing the British textiles. This has fueled Lancashire's cotton mill. So, in whole, what was happening, that they were picking up the raw material. Simply, it's trying to say, taking it over there. We have seen Manchester, Liverpool, right, Lancashire. From there, finished products was again sold back to India. Is it clear? Drain of wealth concept given by Dada Bhai Naroji. He is a moderate uh, in a moderate phase. Okay, moderate phase was the phase where PPP, petitions, prayer, okay, pardoning pledges and speeches were happening to the British government by the Indian intellectuals that give us some kind of concessional constitutional reforms. So it was Dada Bhai Naroji, economist, you can say, historian and economist, not historian, economist, who gave this theory of drain of wealth which the Britishers took away from India. Industrial and financial capitalism. industrial colonies, they were used as the sources of capital. Okay, we see over here Robert Clive's conquest of Bengal after the Battle of Plassey. Is it clear? Later, financial capitalism emerged with British foreign direct investment in Indian railways. We have seen, right? We always see that railways, telegraphs, postal services, all these were created by the British imperialists in India, right? It is said that these were the welfare measures taken for the Indian society, but in real sense, all this was happening because they had to sustain their imperialistic interest, which was to help the procedure of industrial revolution, right? Now, causes, I think all the 9 causes are clear. Let's very quickly see here the consequences of industrial revolution. First one, let's see the economic impact. Industrialization of Britain. We have already seen that it moved from a rural economy to complete urbanized industrial economy. You see, shift from artisanal cottage production factory system and towards the factory system. Okay, mechanizations, that means more usage of machines, spinning jenny, power loom, steam engine, we have done all above, concentrated the production in the mills and the factories, raising the output per worker dramatically. So definitely what is going to happen? The output and the efficiency is increasing. So if the output and all this is increasing, automatically the price will decrease. The products will be available at the cheaper rate and easily available for the common man. Now, because of this mass production and specialization, factories produced standardized goods at a scale, allowing the economies of scale and rise of specialized industrial towns. We'll see over here textiles in Lancashire, right? Engineering in Birmingham, creation of new sectors. What were these new sectors? Coal mining, iron steel, machine making, railways, banking, and insurance. All these sectors expanded rapidly. Why? Because now even the wage uh, earner who is staying in the semi-urban area, right? He has left his rural land and he has moved to the township area. So he is having that fluid money because in agricultural land you have more land, pesa aega. The money will come in certain time, right? But over here, it's the cash flowing money. Another thing, capital formation. The profits from trade and colonies, again, they were reinvested into the industrial enterprises. In the joint stock companies, in the Bank of England, we have seen. Apart from this, example over here is Manchester. It became the Cottonopolis, which means that the raw material was imported via Liverpool and mills in the Manchester. The finished cloths, again, it was exported worldwide. Is it clear what was happening? Economically, you can say, we can sum up, shift from artisan to the factory, factory to mass production, specialization, new sectors, and capital formation. That means people are having fluid money. Urbanization and demographic shift. First thing, we see over here that a large rural base migrates to urban centers. Now, this large rural base migrates also. We have discussed the enclosure Enclosure Act of 1801, right? We have discussed this, that small lands, they were joined together to make a whole consolidated land. Now these small farmers, right, they moved to the township area so that they could earn money over there via being via being the daily wage earners, right? Because now the work, small work which was done by them in the rural area is completely done by the machines. Okay, people, they left the villages for the factory jobs. Towns and cities, all these grew very fast. Okay, and estimates show that the rural share, it fall from roughly 70 to 80% in the late 18th century to 20 to 30% in the middle century. That means decline in the rural population share. Is it clear? Now, apart from this, a rapid growth of the industrial cities. Definitely, it was Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow, all this expanded into major economic centers, providing labor, services, and the market. Apart from this, we see over here population growth and labor supply. Okay, it improved the nutrition and the public health. Plus, the migration increased the labor pool, supporting the factory expansion and domestic demand. I hope I need not to explain this point over here. It's about the migration part. Urbanization, it created a concentrated labor market, right? That made the modern factory system viable and generated a large urban customer market. Now understand, all these wage earners who are moving from the rural land into the urban centers, definitely they will buy bread, eggs, milk, right? So all these, they will buy some clothes also. So urban centers were created when all these people, they came together and they started living in the clusters, concentrated labor market.